foi curto e ótimo enquanto durou, mas infelizmente a nossa programação aqui está apertada, então não dá para a gente extrapolar um pouco mais. Queria então convidar vocês para retornarem para a plateia e a gente vai seguir agora com uma apresentação, mas antes disso, eu vou pedir para colocar o QR Code do sorteio aqui para vocês se inscreverem, para vocês não precisarem sair da sala, tá? Então, a gente já vai liberar aqui a imagem aqui para vocês poderem sortear. Eu vou te pedir só, por gentileza... Pronto, aí sim, o pessoal consegue tirar a foto do QR Code. Nessa próxima sessão, a gente vai falar um pouco sobre o mercado de cloud. Na verdade, vamos ter uma palestra que vai ser feita pelo Serge Mummert. O Serge é Senior Vice President de Global Cloud Strategic Partnership da SES. Serge, where are you? Oh, he's there. So please join us on stage and have the podium for you. E vocês aproveitem aqui para tirar foto do QR Code, tá? Se não ganha, não concorre. Quem não concorre, não ganha.
Well, first, Samuel, it's good to see you in person. We've done this a few times over the years, virtually and finally in person, so thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for coming to Rio, and please enjoy the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the organizers, and also I'd like to thank the translators. I've been highly dependent on your work, so thank you very much back there. Really appreciate all your translation work. So again, I think you've heard over the conference a couple of other SES colleagues of mine. Yurindir spoke, I think, on the first day, and Omar today. So I'm with SES. I focus on the cloud segment. And what does that mean? That's probably the first question. So I focus on working as a partner with the large hyperscalers that provide cloud services. So that's Microsoft, AWS, Oracle, Google. I mean, there's a list of them. Why? Well, from our perspective, and we figured this out many years ago, that they have network partner programs that are a great marketing opportunity for both of us. So in other words, we join their partner programs to offer direct connectivity to their clouds, their data centers. So it's a networking solution. And in addition to that, there's a marketing program where we can market to our customers the ability now for their cloud workloads to go over satellite directly to the data center and their subscription environment. So that is sort of the beginning of our relationship we've built. And then several of the cloud providers started developing a practice, an industry focus on space. AWS and Microsoft both have these areas. They're different in how they go to market. One is more of a product-centric focus. Another one is sort of an industry segment sales effort. But we work with them and try to develop new solutions and services where you combine cloud capabilities with SATCOM for the market. We often have many common customers, government, energy, transportation, that we both serve, both the cloud companies and the SATCOM, and the goal was to find those synergies and create simpler ways to consume both services. So that gives you kind of a backdrop of why we're doing this and where we are today. Today, I brought a presentation that kind of walks through the beginning of what we're doing, but also talks where we're getting a lot of traction in terms of the combinations of cloud and SATCOM. Samuel had asked me, where is it getting traction? Where is security and resiliency with SATCOM playing into cloud solutions? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today and give some examples. Okay. So first off, I borrowed this slide from a colleague of mine. Basically, it impressed me to see all these major applications that you're familiar with, the breadth and reach of these applications today. You might use these applications, they may be on-prem, they may be operating in the cloud, most of them are in the cloud, but the reach of these organizations now in terms of across the globe really kind of aligns really well with where the SATCOM operators are covering. And the combination of providing secure and reliable access to these applications is super important for the enterprises to maintain their services. One of the things we've done, to give an example, we did I don't have this example later, so I'll just do it now. We did an example in Australia for the Defense Forces where they run their vehicles, their fleet out in remote areas, and they actually have a IoT setup to track how the vehicles are performing, and they have twins of these in the cloud. The problem was they would run the fleet, and then they would get back to their base, then they would upload the data. So they never had a real-time understanding of what was going to happen to their vehicle. So with the private 5G bubble that we did with Nokia, and running the application in the cloud, the ERP application, they were able to see real time what was happening to their fleet, any issues that we're having, and could adjust and address it real time. And so that's an example of kind of a tactical use of the Satcom private 5G deployed system with an application like ERP that tracks the digital twin. So that's just one of many, but I just want to give you an example of this is where we're going in terms of the combination, understanding what the customer wants as an outcome, go understand the properties of their application, and how to do the networking. And it's a mixture oftentimes of Satcom and terrestrial to do so. I brought this slide, which is kind of busy, bear with me, but basically we want to kind of share with you that cloud really is a broad topic. You say cloud, it's almost like saying space. It means so many things to so many different people, you have to define it. And so the idea here was to say, when we talk about cloud, we also talk about the factor that most industries and most companies are going through digital transformation. And cloud is an enabler of that transformation. They have many tools, many capabilities that they're trying to use appropriately for the outcomes of the customer in that transformation. It could be industry specific, it could be the company, and they've changed so many industries. Oftentimes I find that they'll introduce us to a company that's completely born in the cloud. We had a health company that runs a platform in a cloud, and had no appreciation for the brick and mortar health services. They were a platform to help health clinics to deploy, and we showed up with a secure communications for remote clinics as a partner. So for this example, you see the basket of technologies. These are sort of the things you're reading a lot about in terms of advancing technologies. These are actually used to achieve outcomes for the customer. And it's oftentimes the cloud company with their partners, the system integrators, the consultants that look at these capabilities and then talk to the customer, where do you want to be? What are the pain points? What are the objectives you have in terms of new markets? And how can I create a solution for you using this basket of technology? And of course, from the cloud provider, they're focused on their key capability of the increasing compute capability, their software platforms that they run, and the services they provide. And all of that is bundled oftentimes for a customer through a partner. And of course, the satellite guy is way down at the bottom is the transport, right? We're enabling this through our connectivity. And our joke is there's no cloud with no network. So the network is key to getting to the cloud. And combining the network capability of both satellite and terrestrial in a solution that's easy to consume, it's programmable, it's adaptive, and it's oftentimes very secure because you have the diversity of the two types of networks. We note here that we connect people to the cloud is one way to look at it. So a remote location, one hop to their cloud. The other one is we push the cloud to the edge. We put edge compute at the end of our terminal, and now those applications are resident at the premise or at the site. So those are sort of the two different kind of architectures. Obviously, so why are the cloud providers interested in Satcom? Obviously, we have some key capabilities that they're interested in. And this, obviously, an SES-focused presentation, but it's true for the industry. Our reach is really important to them. We're reaching actually clients that they're already addressing in the metro areas, but they can't get to in their operational sites. If you're an energy company offering in a remote location or a mining company, they often talk about disconnected mode. And I was like that, I never want to hear that word again. Like, everyone should be connected, and they run applications in a server, then they'll send the server, ship it literally, to get uploaded to the cloud. And so our goal was to make sure no one had a disconnected experience. Temporary operations. Oftentimes you have organizations that deploy, and then they need to move to another location. They all need to be connected. Resiliency, we'll get more into that, but that is a combination of multiple satellite links or terrestrial and satellite working together seamlessly. Media services, we just had a panel on it, the natural for satellite distribution. A lot of the channel development and play out is all in the cloud today. And then finally, anything that moves is connected via Satcom, ships, planes, and the like. All of these are important areas that the cloud companies are very much interested in getting access to. Again, another simple diagram just to share with you the idea of Satcom and terrestrial in an integrated way. We've seen, earlier today we saw many presentations that talked about programmable infrastructure, software-defined wide area networks, applications that the network's intelligent enough to say, hey, your primary link is down, switch to your backup, or it distributes the traffic based on the prioritization of the traffic. You can have applications going on one network and other applications on another depending on their priority, their characteristics. So you can really design an adaptive network for the customer so they get the best experience for their applications. I brought a few examples. SES, as you know, is both a GEO and a MEO operator. Our MEO service really has been a tremendous trunk provider. So oftentimes, this is some examples in Africa where the fiber link was impacted. It automatically switched to our MEO service, and their outage was just temporary, and they were able to operate continuously. This is a very simple example of how we worked with telcos and MNOs. But you can imagine the cloud players are very much interested in this uptime and availability capability of combining satellite and terrestrial. So I'm going to go through a few examples. The first one here is we partnered with AWS in response to a hurricane that happened in Florida last year. Basically, we'd already built a relationship with them. Our gateways already were connected to the AWS cloud. They called us and said, hey, this community needs help quickly. And because they're a tremendous logistics company, by the way, they shipped 3 or 4 of our terminals to this region. We set up the logistics center, the government headquarters of command and control, the insurance that were being processed. All of them were up within a day and running and providing services and keeping the recovery very fast. This is kind of a reactive example, but it was able to support the community super fast. They were able to use their applications in this environment where the network wasn't available. My next example is a more proactive design. We worked with a partner in Taiwan where we put together a private 5G in a box setup. It was on the first responder vehicles, and our SATCOM as backhaul. They deployed these in an environment. This was first an experiment, but we did it in an environment where the private 5G gave a common interface for all the different first responders. They all had different types of devices, so they had a common collaboration application running in the cloud. And the headquarters was able to see inputs from a laptop, from a iPad, or a mobile phone, and integrate it, make decisions dynamically because they had this quick deployed infrastructure. This is an example, again, of where SATCOM does great, right? We show up in a difficult situation, deploy quickly, and everything rolls out in terms of both the wireless bubble and the applications. This one I have to be a little careful what I say. There was a sporting event in Qatar towards the end of last year. You might have seen it. Anyway, we had a client that came to us and said, we're going to set up a region there in terms of a data center, but because this event is so important to us, we're designing into our architecture, we're mirroring our applications in Western Europe. And we have multiple fibers there, but we want to have your MEO service as a backup. And so what we did is, and this is sort of what I'd like to see is more of, is the upfront design of their networking for this event included SATCOM day one. It wasn't a call me and then I'll have to restore it. It was upfront designed in. And there was resiliency built in not only between terrestrial and satellite, even within the terrestrial setup. Between the POPs, there were multiple terminals. This is why I have 2 pictures here, connecting to 2 different gateways in Europe, connecting into 2 different clouds. And they were able to actually have, they tested it multiple times to make sure that we kept those applications running in both in-region and in their mirrored region. The neat thing about this example was when the customers saw the applications run, we asked them, can you tell us when you were on fiber and when you were on satellite? They said, we saw no difference in the experience. We then said, because we're between the Middle East and Europe, what were the latency experience? They said the difference in latency between the terrestrial connection to the other region and MEO was 20 milliseconds. They just could not discern the difference because they were very similar performance characteristics. This is more of what we're spending time on, this idea of designing in the resiliency up front into the network and performing with the applications, like working with the customer through their design, their blueprint, to make sure that the resiliency works like this. It's something that the higher bandwidth MEO services really got the attention of the cloud players, because when we were talking like 10s and 20s of megabits, that wasn't as interesting. We started talking about hundreds of megabits, gigabits, that's when it got their attention that, no, now you're moving into what we need. This is something of interest to us. Just one advertisement. You've heard a few things about SES's MEO. We're in the process of deploying our next generation O3B Power system. This is really what got the attention of cloud providers. The idea of really high bandwidth, flexible, agile ways to deploy, easy to consume, interoperable networking. So you talked earlier about programmable networks, interoperability with 5G. These are things that we're doing today as part of this next generation network, secure connectivity, and the ability to sort of integrate with terrestrial services, both either a bubble at the end of it, or in parallel in terms of resiliency for a fiber connection. And that is my quick run through, Samuel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, please join me.
Yeah.
A round of applause. Então, já deixando aberto para a plateia, se vocês tiverem algum questionamento, levantem a mão. Serge, I will ask you in English, but probably the audience will ask you in Portuguese, so you have your devices, right? Okay. So, since last year, we discussed this cloud integration between satellite and cloud, and I think that probably you brought real cases this year, which is interesting, but I understand that this is something really new, and for the cloud providers, they're being demanded more and more. Of course, everything now is on the cloud. They still have some doubts about how important is to have this second connection or this redundance with the satellite. Some of them said me, okay, but we can get a second fiber. But I understand that you are focusing your solution more on recovery and extreme situations. So how do you argue for them that it's more reliable and more substantially more reliable compared to other fibers?
Yeah. Is this on? Test? Yep. Okay. So my examples so far have been really, we would consider sort of mission critical events, right? A high profile sporting event where the data communications is critical, a disaster recovery scenario where they want to deploy solutions. Those obviously are sort of clear propositions for SATCOM. As you look at sort of an enterprise where they say, I have diverse fiber from 2 different routes, they just have to look at the failure scenarios. Give you an example. When we helped a customer that was operating in Puerto Rico, and when the Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, there's 4 different fibers going into Puerto Rico. All of them went out. So in terms of diversity and sort of resiliency, you really should look at your failure scenarios. So if it's a natural disaster and you're in a region, in fact, one of the things that one of the cloud companies told us was the Caribbean is an example of a community in a region that's very slow to adopt the cloud services because network outage is a very common thing for their experience. So I think it depends on the environment you operate, the operations you have. So there's a combination of things you're looking for to answer that question. If you're in a relatively stable location that has plenty of fiber options and you haven't had an experience, you're probably not going to invest in it. But we're finding enough examples of remote manufacturing sites that have exposure. It really comes down to, give you an example, we had a customer who was a mining customer that said, if I want a best effort satellite communication service, I'll use a LEO service for the team that goes out and does the prospecting. It's a small team, that's it. When I invest in the hardware and the assets and the operations in that mine, I want an SLA and a guaranteed uptime network like your MEO service. So they're already thinking through where the right solution makes sense. It's not something that can support everything in terms of the
but there is one opportunity that I see that could be very interesting for this solution, which is related, somehow it's related to what we're seeing in backhauling cellular 5G towers with the satellites, which is connecting the edge data centers that are being deployed for 5G, especially for 5G, because those are edge data centers. They're spread all over the country, and sometimes they have to be in regions where you don't have fiber connection.
That's right.
So how do you position your solution to fulfill the needs of 5G operators that have this specific edge data centers and they
I mean, that's a very specific case. Most of what we've done today is for enterprise private 5G. It's deployable, it can be standalone. In terms of the macro or public 5G networks. We have done projects with some of the MNOs in showing how we extend and provide resiliency, but it hasn't been an example where we've done it nationwide for all their edges, right? They kind of look at the more susceptible edges, and that's what they'll prioritize in terms of adding the resiliency with SATCOM.
Ok, pergunta da plateia. De novo, vocês conseguiram cravar aqui, levantar a mão exatamente no mesmo horário. Vamos lá, Cristóvão.
Thank you. It's about the completely closed ecosystem, because you mentioned about multiple user terminals. I paid attention. And please, from 0% to 100%, completely closed ecosystem and completely open ecosystem. How do you classify your system?
So it's a good question. I'm going to make sure I understand it, the thing. So in terms of our next generation O3B mPOWER system that you're asking about, I believe you're asking about our next generation MEO service.
mPOWER.
mPOWER, yes. mPOWER is, when we did our MEO service, I think you saw the Metro Ethernet Forum as an example. So for the data communications path, it operates like any MEF certified service. So it can interoperate. If you do fiber MEF service, you could also do it on our system. If you're talking about the technology we use on our platform, is that
no, user terminals.
I
want to choose my suppliers.
Yeah. So we're not in the user terminal business, so we have to certify user terminals. We have recommended ones where we've done volume deals, but we have customers come with us and say, I have this preferred user terminal. Yes. So if you come to us with a commercial KA terminal and say, this is what I want to use, you can use it. The key issue, and I think this is where you're going, is that our modem is a certain platform. Now, there's an idea in there that I wonder this is where you're going. We're one of the few NGSO systems that isn't saying that our stack is the only way to go. Like most of the systems say, take our stack of technology and it is what it is. You can't unbundle it. On our system, particularly government customers, are asking us, we have a preferred waveform, a secure platform provider. We want to run effectively a private network over your MEO system. That you can do on mPOWER. So you could bring a case. So it's not 100%. I think I know you're going.
30% open.
Yeah, but it's more open.
Maybe.
It's more open than others in terms of terminal technology.
Bom, eu gostaria que o senhor botasse a tradução, que eu não sei.
Yeah,
Meu inglês está meio pobre.
He's right. Just don't ask me about 36 megahertz transponders.
My English is poor. Bom, meu nome é Giovanni, eu sou da Brasil Sat. A minha pergunta é, dentro do... Por que a gente conhece, né, eu sou estava ligado à defesa, a gente sabe que existem satélites geoestacionários da defesa americana com intersatellite link. Eu gostaria de saber por que a O3B mPOWER ele não optou por usar satélites com intersatellite link. Pode responder em inglês.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm going to take this off, though, because it's buzzing. It's a good question. So if you look at our operations in MEO, we're at 8,000 kilometers over the equator on this next generation. The coverage of that is pretty much the whole continent, right? So one satellite, I can pick you up here in Brazil and drop you in Florida in one hop. So I didn't really need as much inter-satellite links within a region. If you're asking me to go from Brazil to Japan, then I have to go through a gateway, to your point. But majority of our communications needs can be covered within our MEO orbit because we are a little higher up at 8,000 kilometers. It is something we looked at, and I would actually say we're looking at optical cross-links in the future for a next generation, because I think we are seeing use cases from governments that say, don't ever touch the terrestrial network. I think maybe might be what you're thinking. I didn't answer him in Portuguese, though.
Okay.
Okay, no, you didn't speak Portuguese.
Aí eu entendo inglês pouco, mas não falo. Okay, obrigado.
He can understand you, but he cannot ask the questions in English. But Mas basicamente a resposta dele é que talvez na próxima geração entre essa perspectiva de intersatellite.
I'll add one other idea because you're coming from the government. One of the things that we're looking at to do with our this coming O3b mPOWER is it operates at 8,000 kilometers, so it actually operates above all the LEOs. And there's a lot of LEO systems, not communications, but Earth observation. And one of the things we're looking at is connecting from the Earth observation satellite to the MEO to the end user. And that's really getting a lot of interest because that gives the situational awareness for a customer much faster. For a government user that wants that data, that imagery fast, that's a delivery approach. So that's a new idea.
The MEO satellite would be the gateway.
It would be we call it a relay service, yeah.
But playing the role of the gateway,
yeah, that's right.
Basically. Mais alguma pergunta da plateia? Tem ali do Russell. Russell Crowe.
Hi, Sergio.
Excellent.
In terms of business model, I assume that you probably have customized models for each customer. This is my assumption. I'm not sure.
Okay, I can answer that. Yep.
And this is the first question. And the second question is, do you sell these on demand? I mean, if you have a situation in one of these countries that needs SES to jump in and provide the service, is it possible to be on demand? How fast can you deploy it, and what is the business model for that?
Yeah. Okay. So the first question I'll answer, which is the easier one. So as SES goes to market on our network business by segment, and in each segment we produce products that we try to make them standardized so they're easy to deploy and consume. You know, a package of equipment, the service plan, so it's easy for each segment. So we do that for the cruise market, maritime market. We do that for aero, energy, government. So we do all that. In some of the market segments, they've been asking this question about sort of a consumable model, really a deployable infrastructure, kind of like the private 5G. So we do have a common-to-pause effectively service that the customer basically commits to a certain amount of capacity, and then wherever they want to deploy it, it becomes available to them. So if they have 50 megabits in a country and they move their terminal around because it's on a vehicle, that's kind of the model. So it is consumable. It's not purely on demand yet. We are looking at that in terms of the demand. But obviously, the challenge is over time when your system gets filled up, you're trying to make sure you can support customers because our whole proposition is uncontended, committed services. So it is in plan.
Mais alguma pergunta da plateia? I have a last question for you. It's related to what was said yesterday about the Kuiper Amazon strategy, and they are planning to integrate in their enterprise offer AWS solutions. So this is going to be an upsell for their connectivity services. Do you have plans, or are you already doing this, of offering to your clients as SES clients facilities and services that can be offered by your cloud partners? This is one question. The other question is, are you planning to go to the cloud to operate clouds with your own data centers?
So the last one's no, but let me answer the first one. So the first one, we are working with the cloud providers, Microsoft, AWS, Oracle, on a bundled offering. Depends, and it's usually tailored to the other question for a particular market. And so, like, we put together
for what market?
A particular one.
Oh, okay.
You know, like energy or transportation. We've done this private 5G setup. We did this actually in Taiwan with Microsoft, and that we bundled it together for first responder, that community. I kind of want to pick more on your AWS question a little bit. So we've worked with AWS for quite some time. We were the first satellite communications provider to become a direct connect partner within AWS. And because we're a partner, we get access to leads and opportunities, and we work together on solutions. So that's really given us a lot of opportunity. Now with Kuiper coming, obviously that's part of their family. What we're looking at is how to do multi-orbit solutions to give customers that resiliency between the LEO and MEO. So I think you may have seen that we announced a week or so ago a partnership with Starlink to do that for the cruise industry. So and again, this is coming from the customer saying, look, I don't want to have to go out and buy all these component parts and be responsible for managing it all. I want a single partner to implement all these services and a single neck to choke, as they would say, to manage it. And so that's what we stepped into in the cruise industry. We'll combine MEO, GEO, and LEO and provide a consistent service to the customer.
Okay, and I forgot that I already had a last question, so this is going to be the last one. You saw the Telesat presentation this morning. I don't know if you have the chance to see.
I wasn't here, but go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead. Yeah.
But the basic point is they are designing their constellation.
Telesat. I did see Telesat.
Telesat, yes. Yeah, the basic point is that they are designing Lightspeed constellation at this point, and everything is standardized in terms of math standards, and basic idea is to just plug and play. You don't have to operate satellite to plug on their network, and everything is going to work. How is Empower designing in these regards, in terms of IP standardization?
Yeah, no, we were the first ones with O3B to actually approach the MEF and get certified. So it was great to see that they're doing the same thing. It's something we did many years ago, so it follows in line. It's exactly the right design premise, is to be interoperable and not emphasize the satellite, unique capabilities, but really how we can integrate with the terrestrial services. And making it seamless. That's been the issue, because oftentimes the question we got about proprietary equipment is they already have investments sometimes in the existing equipment, or they want to use a certain technology. So these things have to be kind of contemplated in the design of the network, and that's what we've been doing. The 5G standardization, SES was involved in Europe from the beginning to make sure SATCOM was a part of the architecture, particularly NGSO.
So everything is IP standardized.
That's right.
Okay,
that's
perfect. Right. Sergi, thank you very much for coming to Brazil, for giving this opportunity to teach us a little bit more about cloud and satellite, how it works. So, peço uma salva de palmas para o Sérgio.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hopefully we can see you again next year, Sergi. Thank you very much, and please.